Imagine a work day where, like, absolutely nobody misunderstands your
Oh,
instructions.
that sounds incredible.
Right, like, your projects aren't derailed by these missed details, and your emails don't get, a dozen confused replies back, and every single pitch you give just hits exactly the right note.
I mean, that is the ultimate professional fantasy.
It really is. We are talking about entirely eliminating that friction that just burns up half of your work week.
Because in reality, we spend an enormous amount of our time just trying to untangle crossed wires.
Mm.
We type an email, hit send, and we just assume that because the words are on the screen, well, the communication was successful.
Yeah.
But assuming you've been heard just because you spoke is, frankly, an incredibly dangerous way to operate.
And that exact danger is what we are unpacking today. We're looking at Elizabeth Tierney's guide. It's called 30 Minutes to Boost Your Communication Skills.
It's a highly practical source.
Super practical. And in this deep dive, we are going to dismantle the invisible mechanics of how ideas actually transfer from one human brain to another. So if you're prepping for a massive client meeting, or, you just want to stop repeating yourself to your colleagues, you are going to leave here with a really actionable toolkit.
What's crucial to understand up front is that we all suffer from this illusion of competence when it comes to communicating.
Oh, for sure.
Right, because we do it every day, so we just assume we're experts at it.
Mm-hmm.
But Tierney breaks down these hidden psychological and mechanical traps that literally cost organizations time, money, and respect.
Yeah, to fix the process, we have to look closely at exactly where it shatters. So let's look at the standard office disasters from the text.
Let's do it.
You have Jim, right? Jim is tasked with hiring, but he ends up interviewing an entire slate of the wrong candidates.
A classic Jim move.
Exactly. Or Jane, who walks into a crucial client meeting completely empty-handed because she didn't bring the right data. Then there's Harry, who totally forgot to arrange the conference room chairs, so you have executives just standing awkwardly against the wall.
Which is the worst feeling.
It's so awkward. And finally, Amy, who listens to your entire half-hour presentation, nods along, and then at the very end says, "Interesting, but what was the point?"
Oh, wow. Yeah, we've all been there.
Hmm.
And, we look at those situations and our immediate instinct is to blame the receiver.
Yeah, we think Jim wasn't paying attention.
Exactly. Jane is disorganized. Amy is just, I don't know, a bit slow on the uptake. But if we break communication down into its mechanical parts, a very different picture emerges.
So what are those parts?
Well, the source outlines a 7-step process. First, you formulate a message. Then you choose the medium. Step 3, you send it.
Okay.
Step 4, the receiver actually physically receives it. 5, they interpret it. 6, they act on it. And finally, step 7, they provide feedback.
Right, but I feel like those steps aren't really weighted equally. Like, there is a massive gulf between step 4, receiving the message, and step 5, interpreting it. Oh, a huge gulf.
Because just because Jim heard the, sonic vibrations of your voice, that doesn't mean his brain decoded the priority or the nuance or the urgency of what you wanted.
Exactly. And that brings us to the critical pivot point in those 7 steps. The very moment you hit send on that email, or the moment the words leave your lips, control completely shifts away from you.
You're not driving anymore.
You are no longer driving the vehicle. The receiver's biases, their stress levels, their current workload, all of that instantly takes over the interpretation of your message.
It's kind of like throwing a baseball in the dark.
I love that analogy.
Yeah, you can have perfect form, the perfect grip, a flawless release. But if you throw it into pitch blackness, you have absolutely no idea if the other person has a glove.
Or if they're even looking in your direction.
Exactly. Or if they're even standing on the field at all. And in a business context, this happens constantly. Like sending a complex 50-tab financial model spreadsheet to a creative director without any context, that is literally throwing a baseball in the dark. And when that ball hits the dirt, the failure is on the sender.
Oof.
I know, that is the tough reality we have to swallow here. The breakdown almost always occurs because the sender assumes something that shouldn't be assumed.
Right.
You assume that because you understand the complex history of a project in your own head, that context is just magically teleported into the receiver's mind.
So if the burden of success is entirely on the sender, then the whole game is won or lost before we ever even open our mouths. We have to, front load the effort.
Which brings us to this concept from the text of doing your homework.
Okay, what does that look like?
Well, this isn't just a quick glance at your notes. This requires setting aside deliberate, uninterrupted cognitive space to think, to ask questions, and to draft.
Which nobody does.
No one does it. But the human brain cannot multitask complex strategic thought. If you are drafting a critical email while you're, I don't know, half listening to a Zoom call, you are guaranteeing a communication breakdown.
So to structure that deep thinking, Tierney outlines this really interesting exercise called the message funnel.
Yes, the funnel.
It's a mechanism to force a vague, wandering thought down into this razor-sharp, actionable purpose. And it works because it actively reduces the cognitive burden on the person receiving the message. I actually want to trace the exact path of this funnel from the source because it completely changes how you approach an agenda.
Let's walk through it.
Okay, so you start at the wide top of the funnel. You decide you need to talk to your team about a policy.
Right, but if you send a calendar invite about a policy,
Yeah,
you induce total anxiety and confusion.
exactly. People are like, Am I getting fired?" So you narrow it, an HR policy.
Still way too broad.
Right. So we funnel again, company HR policy.
We're getting closer, but it's not actionable yet.
Nope. Let's go deeper. Current performance appraisal.
Much better.
And then finally, you reach the absolute bottom of the funnel, the hyper-specific core. The reasons for the changes in the current performance appraisal document.
Look at the sheer mechanical difference between a policy and that final sentence.
It's night and day.
Because that final sentence answers the most important question in any communication, which is, so what?
Yes.
It tells the receiver exactly why they are in the room and what is expected of them. When you narrow the focus like that, you remove the mental fatigue the audience would otherwise spend just trying to guess your motives.
I can definitely hear the pushback from the listener right now, though.
Oh, sure.
Because in a fast-paced environment where we are triaging like hundreds of emails a day and jumping between back-to-back meetings, this level of hyper-refinement feels like a total luxury.
It does.
Taking 15 minutes to funnel a single message down to its absolute essence feels like it's slowing the whole machine down.
It absolutely feels that way, but we really have to measure the true cost of communication. Taking 10 minutes up front to clarify your exact why feels slow, but what is the cost of not doing it?
The disasters.
Exactly. It's the hours lost to those Jim and Jane disasters. It's the 45-minute meeting that accomplishes absolutely nothing and then requires a follow-up meeting on Thursday.
The worst.
Or it's the 15-email thread, just trying to clarify one vague request. The upfront cognitive investment of funneling your message is minuscule compared to the back-end cleanup of a shattered communication.
Right, so you either spend 10 minutes thinking on a Tuesday, or you spend your entire Friday afternoon apologizing and doing damage control.
Spot on.
Okay, so we've done the homework, we have our laser-focused message, but a brilliant message delivered through the wrong channel or to the wrong mindset is still going to hit a brick wall.
And this is where empathy transitions from being just a soft skill into a hard strategic tool. You have to decode your audience's current cognitive state.
Like, how stressed are they?
Exactly. Are they under massive stress from a looming deadline? We often think of stress as just an emotion, but it is a physical, neurological barrier.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, high cortisol levels literally narrow a person's focus down to immediate survival tasks. So if you try to pitch a complex, long-term strategic pivot to someone who is drowning in an immediate crisis,
And just can't hear it.
their brain physically lacks the bandwidth to interpret your data.
And there are also emotional filters at play too, right?
Hmm.
If we look back at Amy, who totally missed the point of that presentation, what if she is harboring resentment because, say, you denied her vacation request last month?
That's a great point.
She isn't objectively evaluating your ideas at that point. Her brain is filtering every single word through this lens of defensive hostility.
Exactly. And beyond emotional filters, there is the barrier of existing knowledge. If you walk into a room of operations managers and start using deep, theoretical marketing jargon or really aggressive techno-speak, you induce cognitive overload.
Oh, for sure.
They spend so much energy just trying to decode your vocabulary that they completely miss your central argument. You basically handed them a locked box, but you kept the key to yourself.
Which means we really have to match the delivery mechanism to the audience's needs, choosing the right medium. Because we've all seen this done wrong.
Oh, constantly.
Sending a 30-page complex legal document for an issue that needs a decision in 5 minutes is it's like sending a postcard to the fire department.
That perfectly captures the absurdity of it. The medium dictates how the brain processes the information. So you have to ask yourself specific questions like, does the audience need time to reflect on complex data?
Right.
If so, dropping it on them in a quick hallway chat is a complete failure of medium. They need a document they can sit with and annotate.
Or conversely, if you just need a quick yes or no on like a lunch order, don't schedule a 15-minute calendar invite.
Precisely. Is the information highly confidential? Then sending an email that can be easily forwarded or screenshotted is a massive strategic error.
Yeah, that's a disaster waiting to happen.
Or do you need a permanent auditable record of a decision? Then a phone call is insufficient. You just
No.
have to align the vehicle with the cargo.
Okay, so we have a refined message, we've decoded the audience's mental state, and we've selected the right medium. Now we actually have to arrange the ideas. We have to build the architecture of the message so the audience can actually navigate it and retain it.
Because information without structure isn't knowledge, it's just noise.
Right.
The human brain is incredibly lazy. It wants to conserve energy. If you don't provide a clear structural map, the audience's brain has to work overtime to figure out how your points connect, and they will just quickly tune out to save energy.
To build that map, you have to establish context immediately. I really love the analogy used in the source to explain this. It compares orienting your audience to the opening of a film or a television show.
Oh, the zoom-in effect.
Yes. The
Yeah.
camera doesn't just cut immediately to two people talking in a tiny room. You start with this wide, establishing shot of a city skyline. Then the camera zooms into a specific office building, then a specific window, and finally, you are in the room with the characters.
And you have to do the exact same thing with your ideas.
Right. In a business setting, you don't start a meeting by dropping them right in the room and saying, hey, we are cutting the Q3 budget by 10%.
That just induces panic.
Exactly, because there is no context. You have to start with the wide shot. The global market has shifted over the last 6 months. Then zoom to the building. Our specific tech sector is seeing reduced enterprise spending.
Perfect.
Then zoom to the room. Therefore, to remain agile, we need to adjust our Q3 budget. You guided their minds perfectly to the conclusion.
And that orientation forms the very beginning of your structure.
Oh.
From there, having a clear beginning, middle, and end is non-negotiable. And there's a really profound psychological reason for this.
Oh.
Audiences operate on trust. If you write an introduction that promises 15 sections and the document only delivers 7, the audience feels betrayed.
Even if those 7 sections were great.
Even if they were brilliant, the audience stops absorbing the information because their cognitive focus is entirely distracted by that broken promise.
Wow. Okay, so once that overarching structure is set, the internal sequencing has to make logical sense too. You can sequence chronologically, moving from past quarterly performance to future projections.
Right.
You can sequence spatially, like taking the audience on a tour from the East Coast logistics hubs to the West Coast hubs, or you can move from abstract theory down to concrete practice.
Mnemonics are also a really powerful sequencing tool mentioned in the text. The classic example is the POWER acronym. POWER. People, organization, work, energy, respect. You build your presentation around those 5 pillars so the audience has this mental coat rack to hang the ideas on.
But I've seen this backfire horribly. Like, if the goal of a mnemonic is memory retention, can a memory trick actually be, too clever for its own good?
It absolutely can, and it's a trap a lot of really smart communicators fall into. If your acronym is too forced or your metaphor is overly theatrical, it cannibalizes the core message.
Yeah, just remember the joke.
Exactly. The audience will walk away remembering your hilarious acronym, but they will completely forget the actual business strategy it was supposed to represent. The structure must always act as the scaffolding. It should never become the star of the show.
Okay, so the scaffolding is up, the architecture is solid, but now we have to look at the micro level, the actual paint and finish of the house. We need to talk about tone, word choice, and hyperbole.
This is huge.
Because you can have the perfect strategy and alienate your entire audience with just one misplaced word.
Tone is probably the most fragile element of communication. It is dictated by word choice, sentence length, and pacing. And when tone clashes with context, the results are completely jarring.
The source has some funny examples of this.
Yeah, imagine someone reading a somber, intensely heavy passage from John Milton at a lighthearted wedding reception.
Oh, so bad.
Or imagine landing at a foreign airport, and the customs agent gives you a warm hug, tells you a hilarious joke, and then cheerfully informs you that you're being deported.
It's totally absurd, but we do milder versions of this in the workplace every single day. Let's look at the psychology behind specific words. Take the words clearly or obviously. I physically cringe when I see those in an email.
Most people do, and
Yeah.
it's because of the psychology of defensiveness. When you write, clearly the Q2 data shows we need to pivot, You are subtly telling the audience that this conclusion is self-evident to anyone with a functioning brain.
Right.
So if the receiver doesn't understand the data, they immediately feel attacked and intellectually inferior. Their ego steps in to defend itself, and the moment they become defensive, they just stop listening to your argument altogether.
It's like an accidental insult. And the same goes for hyperbole, using absolute words like always or never. Like if you say, marketing never loops us in on these campaigns.
And the second you say never, you give the audience's brain an escape hatch.
What do you mean?
They don't have to engage with your core grievance about communication silos anymore. They just have to find a single exception from 3 years ago, where marketing did loop you in, and they use that one exception to entirely dismiss your credibility.
Oh, that is so true. And then on the flip side of hyperbole are weak qualifiers, saying something like, we have a sort of big problem with the servers.
What does sort of even mean?
Right. Is the building on fire or did we just run out of cloud storage? It projects a total lack of conviction. We have to replace those qualifiers with hyper-specificity. Instead of saying, sales went up significantly, you say, sales increased by 42% in 3 weeks.
Exactly.
Specificity is just the fastest way to build trust because it proves you actually know the details.
And alongside specificity, you must enforce simplicity. Corporate environments breed jargon as a defense mechanism. People feel insecure, so they use complex vocabulary to artificially inflate their perceived intelligence.
Oh, my favorite example from the text is when people say things like, we need to interface and liaise at our respective abodes, instead of just saying, let's meet and talk at the house.
It's ridiculous. Jargon doesn't make you sound smart. It just builds a wall of cognitive friction between you and the listener.
Keep it simple, keep it specific.
Mm-hmm.
But here's where things get truly fascinating. We've optimized the message, the medium, the structure, and the tone. But there is an entirely separate layer of silent communication happening in the background.
Oh, yes.
Things that are actively transmitting messages to your audience before you even open your mouth.
You're referring to the micro details in the physical environment.
Exactly. Like, you can draft the most brilliant, perfectly toned presentation in company history, but if you misspell the CEO's title on slide 2, you are instantly dead in the water.
Yep.
Or if the math in your pie chart doesn't add up to 100%, or my personal nightmare, you stride up to the whiteboard to draw a massive conceptual diagram, and the marker is completely dry.
Those micro failures completely hijack the narrative.
Yeah.
But we have to look even closer than the whiteboard. We have to look at ourselves.
Right.
The way you handle your physical presence is a constant broadcast of your internal state. Are you incessantly pulling at the hem of your shirt, pushing your glasses up your nose every 10 seconds, fiddling with a pen? These physical tics just broadcast anxiety and unpreparedness.
And it extends right down to your workspace, too. Like if I walk into your office for a critical strategy meeting, and your desk is just covered in dirty coffee cups, and your trash can is overflowing with crumpled paper, that is communicating with me.
It sounds so superficial to judge someone on a coffee cup, but it's based on nonverbal heuristics.
Mental shortcuts.
Exactly.
Yeah.
The human brain is constantly looking for mental shortcuts. Evaluating your actual professional competence takes a lot of time and cognitive energy. So the brain looks for environmental cues as a proxy for your standards.
That is honestly a terrifying realization. My dirty desk is a proxy for my professional reliability.
It really is.
The client's brain is subconsciously saying, if they are this careless with their physical environment, they will probably be this careless with my multi-million-dollar account. It is just this silent broadcaster of your attention to detail.
Which brings us to the ultimate question. You've cleared the coffee cups, you've funneled your message, you've chosen the perfect medium, and you've nailed the tone. How do you actually know if any of it worked?
We have to close the loop. Step 7 of the communication process, feedback.
Exactly. But this is where most leaders fail entirely. They finish a 40-minute presentation, look around the room, and ask, so what did everyone think? Any questions?
And you just get crickets.
Always.
Or you get the standard passive least resistance answer, it was fine, looks good.
Which tells you absolutely nothing about what actually transferred into their brains.
Mm-hmm.
Asking a vague question guarantees a polite, useless answer. If you want to know if your communication succeeded, you have to ask specific, probing questions that require the audience to demonstrate their understanding.
Like what?
You ask, which specific metric in Section 2 felt the most relevant to your department? Or, Where did you feel the argument for the new software was the weakest?
Because you are forcing them to engage with the material, which instantly reveals exactly what they absorbed and what they completely missed.
Right.
It allows you to uncover why it worked or why it failed so you can actually adjust your strategy for next time.
Communication isn't a one-off event, it's an iterative feedback loop.
And that is exactly what we set out to uncover today. We wanted a shortcut to mastering communication, and the reality is that the shortcut is actually just incredibly deliberate preparation.
Very deliberate.
It's doing the deep cognitive homework to funnel your message until it's razor sharp. It's decoding your audience's stress levels, picking the exact right medium, building a structural map they can actually follow, and stripping out the jargon and ego that just cause defensiveness.
Absolutely.
And it's being hyper aware of the silent signals, from dry markers to dirty coffee cups, that you are constantly broadcasting.
It requires a massive amount of intention. But the return on that upfront investment is a professional life stripped of the endless friction, where you are consistently understood, respected, and highly effective.
Thank you so much for taking this deep dive with us today. Analyzing the sheer mechanics of how we share ideas completely changes how you look at a simple email or a daily stand-up meeting.
It really does. And I just want to leave you with a final thought to mull over as you head into your next meeting or draft your next message. We've learned today that communication is this complex, multi-sensory translation between two minds, governed by heuristics, stress levels, and hidden assumptions.
Yeah.
If everything from your specific word choice to your posture to the trash can in your office is constantly transmitting data, what is the unspoken accidental message you are broadcasting right now in this very moment when you think you aren't communicating at all?